In the meantime, Iranians in Tehran say they're not worried after Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, warned the response against Iran would be deadly, precise and surprising, while others said they are certainly worried, adding that they're afraid that at any second, a missile might fall.
نه فکر نمی کنم الان در شرایطی باشه که هر دو کشور خواهان جنگ دو طرفه باشن. یعنی خواهان جنگ تمام عیار نیستن، چون برای هر دو تبعات اقتصادی و نظامی شدیدی خواهد داشت.
خب 100% نگرانی داریم، بالاخره همه از جونشون میترسن. من الان صبح از یه شهر دیگه اومدم اینجا، باور کنیم میترسیدم تا اینجا رسیدم. هر لحظه فکر میکنم الان موشک میاد، الان یه اتفاقی میفته. 100% میترسیم. ولی خب تا حالا که
Joining us to discuss the Middle East conflict is a foreign policy analyst, Bolu Michael-Biyi. Hello, Bolu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Bolu, how will Israel's military actions in Lebanon impact regional stability, particularly regarding Hezbollah?
Israel has been attacking Lebanon a lot, I mean, heavily in the past couple of days and weeks now, and that may actually escalate tension in the entire region. And it's not only on the path of Israel, but also Hezbollah as well. But must not forget as well that Hezbollah is sending in rockets into Israeli territory. So it goes both ways. And, you know, as long as Israel continues to, you know, bomb Lebanon, as long as Hezbollah also retaliate, there's going to be there's a likelihood that there'll be heightened tension in the entire region.
All right. Now, what about the impact that the U.S.'s request for restraint? What impact do you think it will have on U.S.-Israel relations?
Well, to be honest, I don't really trust the United States on their position on this issue at the moment. Because, you know, there's an election coming up in a couple of days. A majority of Americans are not happy about, you know, the foreign policy of the current administration, because the United States, the country that is supporting Israel the most, and they're supplying them with these weapons. Instead of sending a strong warning, they could rather, you know, stop sending them these weapons, or sending them limited weapons that cannot cause a Gaza kind of situation in Lebanon. You know, so peradventure they are sincere about their position, then I think based on the precedents in terms of the U.S.-Israeli relation, I don't think that there will be a major fallout between Israel and the USA. I think Israel might hearken to United States notice.
All right, Bolu, will international humanitarian law influence the conflict's trajectory, you know, given recent civilian infrastructure airstrikes?
You know, international human rights law, you know, specifically the Geneva Convention, has made it clear that civilian infrastructure must not be targeted in times of war. For example, hospitals, churches, schools, and homes. So if either side are actually bombing civilian infrastructure, then they are breaching international law clearly. And this will call for international condemnation and accountability in every way. But it's also important to recognize that it's very difficult to enforce this kind of law at this time, being that especially if both sides are claiming that they're using human shields, or they're hiding under civilian infrastructure. Because both sides believe that the war must continue, and if they consider humanitarian lives, they would, you know, not fight at all. You know, so they are forced in a way to bomb civilian infrastructure based on this point. However, it's not a justification because it's still in breach of international humanitarian law.
Okay. Now, Bolu, can you speak to us on what particular factors are driving the current Israel-Lebanon-Gaza violence? Just briefly, please.
Okay. Yeah, you know, this war is deeply rooted. It's a combination of conflicts over the territories, as well as the influence of Hezbollah and Hamas in these areas, long-standing vendetta and retaliations, and also external factors. These are a combination, mix of all these factors. What is driving this war? For example, external factors such as the United States supporting Israel and also Iran supporting Hamas, Hezbollah. So this combination of factors is what is driving this conflict in the Middle East. So if external factors can be cut down and they can actually sit down and negotiate to tackle issues from the root, I want to believe that they would be able to find a way out of this conflict.
All right, just before we let you go, and speaking about, finding their way out of the conflict, what diplomatic opinions exist to de-escalate tensions between Israel, Lebanon, Gaza, and the UN?
Okay, I think mediation is the way. Mediation is the way, and it's usually come from international organizations like the United Nations or superpowers like the United States and Russia. But it's such a complicated situation that any time in the history of the world right now, because even the superpowers are at loggerheads. France is against the USA right now. USA is against Russia. Of course, because of the conflict in Ukraine. And, so it's difficult for even the superpowers and international organizations to sit down and have a discussion on a common purpose. But the traditional way would usually start with a ceasefire agreement, and then they move to a negotiation, and then the last phase, which is the conflict building part of it, which involves, for example, the opening of humanitarian corridor, as well as, agreements to ensure that they do not bomb civilian infrastructure. But it's such a complicated situation right now because even the mediators, and they don't want to listen, they are loggerheads, and both parties are just against each other. It's such a very messed up situation. So let's just hope that things will change in the coming months.
All right, well, thank you so much for speaking to us, Bolu Michael-Biyi, on this.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.